So I think one of the best things you can do when trying to get someone to understand a new product or design is to give them a virtual reality experience. And obviously I don't mean, you put them in a virtual reality headset. If you got it, why not? But no, what I mean is providing a strong mental picture for what it would be like to use this product or to walk through this proposed space. And we've been doing this type of virtual reality for millennia. We just call it storytelling. Right? We even have terms that reinforce this. We talk about a good story as having a high transportation effect, meaning it feels like we've been moved to another space. Or we'd say good stories have rich story worlds because we can envision what the space looks like, what it feels like. So now how do we do this with product and design talks? Well, I think one of the things that we can start with is providing lots of detail that can bring the audience into that story world. So for example, if you're talking about a new running shoe, for whatever reason, what would it feel like if a person was running on different terrain? And the more richly you can describe that experience, the better, right? And you might also try talking through the first person. So if it's an architectural design, what would we see as we move through the space, right? So you're like, oh, so as you walk through the entryway and you look to your right, you can see through the living room and into the open kitchen. Now, if you look straight ahead, you can see all the way through the dining room and you can see even the backlight coming in from the back windows. So you're trying to give us a sense for what it looks like to stand in that design. And in fact, a couple of years ago, there was an article talking about successful design presentations. So these were architects talking about successful design studio presentations when designers have to talk to others about their proposed plans. So what did the article find? Well, the researchers noted that the more successful presentations mixed narrative and exposition. So what was happening was these architects would provide lots of narrative to help people experience the design, right? So same thing, as you walk into the atrium, you can look up, there's a huge chandelier, so on and so forth. So they're providing that virtual experience. But these architects also narrated their experiences about designing. So they talked about what they went through when they initially saw the site where they were supposed to build and how they came up with their design plan. So the researchers also noted that the more successful presentations explained their rationales in making design decisions. So what would happen is these architects would explain what their goals were for the space and why they made specific decisions. This provided context and explanation for the design details. So it was giving the audience insight into the design making process, but it was also providing details and context about the proposed plan. So what might this look like for us, for the types of presentations we would do? So let's stay with the architect theme. We'll go with landscape architecture. Let's say you're a landscape architect and you're presenting to a client. So you might organize your talk to look like this. All right, so we start off providing context with your goals for the space. Maybe you bounce this off the constraints you had to deal with. Constraints that the client may or may not know anything about. So stuff like city codes and regulations. Then you can dive into the key features and you could end the whole thing with a separate virtual walkthrough, or you could probably do this just as you discuss each key feature. Now, a product presentation is similar, but kind of different. So if it's an updated project, you could maybe start off talking about the similarities and then dive into the new hardware and software features, assuming it's technology. Or you could batch all this together and simply do a 2-point talk. Here's what stays the same, here's what's new. You could skip that all together and simply talk about an existing problem, the context for the product. Then briefly explain what the product is and what it does, and then you can talk at length with lots of examples and visual detail about how the product solves the problem. Whatever you choose to do, you should think about how to best give your listeners the experience of the product or the design. Okay, with lots of examples and visual detail, help that audience see what you're talking about.